Is marriage worth it? Timing of this is crazy too because I just did a video. Well, I didn't just do a video. I just did the podcast with Jesse Lee with my girl the other day, and he posted a snippet of that pod 2 days ago. Talking in the section he posted was we were talking about my thoughts on marriage and my girl's thoughts on marriage or whatever, man. So timing is perfect, man. Because I was told to look at this, check it out. This podcast is from Valuetainment Money. And the timing couldn't even be more perfect too, because I'm actually going to be on their podcast in a few weeks. I'm going to be up on recording a live show with them. So tune in for that here pretty soon, man. But I guess Hafiz and Coach Greg Adams are going back and forth about marriage and shit. And y'all wanted to hear my thoughts on this. Fortunately, they have the podcast sectioned off, so I ain't got to watch this whole shit, man. So I'm just going to ride this out and see what it turns into, man, because there's a lot to go through. So we'll figure it out, man. But let's go.
I tell men to not get married, especially when you don't have leverage. However, I also tell you, do not listen to people who simplify this. This is a very complicated thing that most people fail at miserably.
When you're hearing this, you've been married 1 year. And by the way, this guy's a sharp, informed, very intentional guy. My assumption is he didn't just trip and fall into marriage.
He's seen myself before.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
So you've been very, you're a calculated dude. 100%. Okay? So when you're hearing Greg say this, and even when you're hearing Ali say this, how are you processing this information?
No, this is really good, and I'm excited about how this conversation can develop, because I think you've maybe did you react to me and AMS's conversation a couple of years ago about marriage?
I didn't react to it. I didn't do a reaction video.
Okay.
But yeah, I made a comment about it.
Okay, you made a comment about it. Okay, so to me, I'm really excited about it, but it's also key to talk about experience. Mm-hmm. Experience shapes your view, right? Yeah. So a girl who's been abused by a lot of different men, she's gonna have a very cynical leaning view towards men. A man who's been cheated by business partners will have a very cynical view about having potential business partners. So it's also unique to talk about we have to be honest. Yeah. Nobody here is 100% objective. That's one of my arguments always with red pill stuff. They say they're speaking the truth. You're not a robot. You have your biases, right? Call it for what it is. We all have our biases. I have biases. You have biases. Coach has biases. As much as we think we have to be 100% honest to the people about our biases. If I'm an individual and I was divorced and I had a difficult experience via marriage, I'm going to have a biased opinion via marriage. Ali has a positive experience with marriage, so she can have a bias towards, great marriages can work, right? So similar to me, the people I admire the most, the people I look up to, are married people. Patrick Bet-David, Jordan Peterson, my father, Pastor Mark Driscoll, people who I look up to the most, right? Long-term marriages, the people that I celebrate a lot. Long-term marriages. My father and mother have been married for over 30 years. Great, healthy marriage. So that's my opinion. My Pastor Tahadi Lewis, been married for over 25 years. So that's my worldview. And so to me, hearing what he's sharing, there is truth in that. Everything what everyone's going to share is going to be truth in it. Yes, if you like, my dad told me a very powerful point. I love my father. He's such a wise older man. He said the most important decision you'll ever make in your life is the one you marry. Yeah. And it can go one of two ways. And this is what I want the guys to understand. We're not teaching naivete, which is, marriage is this perfect thing and you just meet the one and live happily ever after. And there's no issues, there's no divorces. Right. We're not teaching naivete. Marriage can be the worst thing in your life. It can be an absolute living hell. And I guarantee you can go for days and for days. And you know so many different stories about people which marriage is an absolute living hell. But we don't want to teach being naive about the realities. But also we don't want to teach nihilism. Right? The other end of the extreme. Marriage is the worst thing possible, and the women are out to get your money, and everyone's miserable, and everybody's roommates, and everybody's this. Because there are some individuals, such as what Alex communicated, who are in happy, healthy long-term marriage, right? So you don't want to be...
This is kind of off topic, and I don't want to be up here shitting on Hafiz, but he is very long-winded, bro. He said a lot of words. He could have summed all that shit up in 2 seconds.
Naive, you want to be nihilistic, you want to be as real as possible. Give me the good, the bad, and the ugly. And my biggest thing is that I understand that marriage is a very difficult thing to get right. And the same thing is I love what you do. It's marriage and money, right? I think we're going to be talking about those two things today. Adam, you're a 1% man financially. right? That means 99% of people are trying to get to where Adam is. Most people live paycheck to paycheck. They're struggling. Their lives suck when it comes to money. Most people are struggling, but they're trying to get to where you are. That's how I view relationships. Most people are in really sucky relationship. Most people, it's a day-to-day war, hell, the way work is, the way the gym is. But then there are some people who are having it at the highest of level. The same way nobody says, oh, well, most people are not going to be in the 1%, so screw it. You should even try. It's, 90% of businesses end in 10 years. You should even try. We say, if somebody's going to succeed, why not you?
I don't like that comparison at all. It's not, one doesn't have to do with the other in my eyes. Like, the one variable that makes his analogy dumb is that in a relationship there's two people, right? His comparison to somebody trying to be 1%. You know what I mean? That's you. The entire burden is on you to do what you can do to get that 1%, right? Relationship, regardless of how much effort you want to put into this relationship to make it perfect, if the person you're with isn't on board, then everything else is done in vain. You know what I mean? So just based on that logic, it doesn't make any sense. Everything he said thus far doesn't open my eyes or make me more, not even optimistic, but change my thought or my mind state on it, man, because the arguments he's making are pretty irrelevant. It's not about the worst or the best case scenario. It's like risk reward, at least for me. You know what I mean? Like risk assessment. People get paid to be risk assessment agents for insurance companies. Like, is this a good course of action for you to take? Is this risk worth the reward? And with marriage, is any marriage worth the risk? If there's a high chance that it's not going to work out, it's risk reward to me. And the majority of the time, who is the one that's fucked when the marriages fall through? The man.
I love what you're doing. If someone's going to be rich, why not you? If someone's going to make money, why not you? Someone's going to have a great podcast.
Man, I kind of got sidetracked on that. Like all these other comparisons, like trying to be the 1% of something, right? There's a high likelihood that you're not going to be the 1%. That's why most people don't even try. You know what I'm saying? Because everybody can't be the 1%. So even that argument is kind of retarded to me, because you're trying to apply that to marriages. You know what I'm saying? All that shit is based on you and what you do to achieve that. You have to rely on anybody else. And that's the key.
Why not you? So for me, I acknowledge that the top of the mountain is rare. I acknowledge that. But what I also acknowledge is that if somebody's going to win, why not it be you? And how can we help as many men as possible get there? Everybody won't be able to get there, but how many people can we help get there? And that's what to me matters the most.
Not a realist.
I love that.
Now, when you hear something like this, like obviously he's sort of saying, all right, I hear you, coach. Your marriage didn't work. You got out, thank God, before the 10-year mark. So you'd probably be a little bit more spiteful than you are. I'm not saying that you're spiteful, but you'd be even more spiteful if you're paying a ridiculous amount of alimony and everything that you've been paying. But is there anything wrong with that if he's saying? He's basically saying, I hear you, coach. It ain't easy out there, brother. Like, life's tough. Marriage is tough. Making money is tough. Things are tough. But don't tell me that I shouldn't get married, or don't tell me that I can't have a successful marriage. How do you process that?
I don't think anyone says do not get married. I think they caution people to say do not get married. If I say do not get married without leverage, that is a position, right, that you can change. Thus, if you read my book, it says once you get to that position, you can then make the decision. You'll probably come out better than going in it without it. However, this is what I will always say. When men do find that solution does not work out, they are left alone. There's nobody to help them. So people encourage people, hey, why not? Give it a try. But when you go bankrupt, when you lose your kids, when your kids are taken from you, when the courts kind of punish you for making this decision or punishes you for being a slightly better, higher earner, then nobody's there with information. Nobody's there with context. No one's there to help them. And I believe, not feel, I know, understand, believe, and I have evidence to show that men are left alone when they don't succeed in this endeavor. And that is the void that I feel. because I can tell you, hey, men are alone in this situation. Men are homeless. Men are thinking about eating guns. Men are thinking about they have no way out. Men are losing big time, and we're losing a fraction of men due to manipulation, due to people trying to, they may be hurt. A woman might be hurt in a marriage, or she might feel that she's not being appreciated, and then she throws a grenade in the room. What happens then? See, that's where I come in. I get to show you what happens when the grenade is there. And I also encourage you, you're not alone in this. A lot of people come to my content and they find out, oh, you too? See, before, as I said, 70 years ago, 40 years ago, 30 years ago, there was nobody presenting this side of the argument.
This side, I see what you're saying.
This right
with
here.
Got
Nobody,
it.
they just left men alone and they said, well, you must not have been hitting it right. Or you must not have loved her right. Or you must have abused the kids. That's what she said. She said that you were, and nobody came to this position. So listen, there was a void open and I ran right there.
So there's this idea of Eastern versus Western marriage. Let's just say Greg is on the East, she's on the West. Eastern marriage is all about logic. Does it make sense? Arranged marriages, right? Two families, two worldviews, two ideologies. Doesn't matter how you feel. It matters, does it make the most sense?
They're the most successful, by the way, arranged marriages.
We can talk about that in the future.
Sure. Yeah.
So Greg comes from that mentality of, if you're going to get in this agreement, you need to write out the agreement, clear as day. What does this entail? What does it get? If you leave, you get this. If you leave without this, you don't get nothing. Like, it's a very systematized business kind of contract, because it's a business contract. Because, and this is why when you were talking about the idea of like when men fail in marriage, they lose everything. That's wrong.
No, I didn't say they lose everything, but they lose an awful lot.
Let's stop.
Yes.
That's still wrong.
Well, why is it wrong?
Because let me tell you why. Because when men lose at anything in life, they lose a lot. You lose your job. Who's gonna come save you? If you screw your friends over, like, as a man, that's the name of the game. You lose, you're gonna lose a lot. You fail, you're gonna fail a lot. So I'm not saying that it's wrong.
Oh, bro, that's stupid as fuck. What he just I'm trying to be cool. I mean, that was retarded, bro. That was stupid as shit. Because it's difficult to be a man, we should accept failure when failure happens. Not even that. Knowing the risk of the situations we place ourselves in, we're not supposed to repair ourselves as best as we can to come out this shit as unharmed as possible. We're not supposed to use any logic signing a business contract. But it's just what it is. When men lose, they're supposed to lose everything. It's just the way it is. What? Yeah, I mean, that's why that's one of the reasons why I do appreciate the red pill shit, because what red pill does is provide ammunition for men to prepare themselves to essentially go into battle in these type of situations, man. Because more times than not, that's what it's going to turn into. But like, that was crazy what he just said. You don't lose anything because men lose all the time. That's what he just said. Men don't lose anything in marriage because that's what men are supposed to do. That's what they do. They lose.
Wrong, like, marriage doesn't count. I'm saying marriage is a part of all the things as a man where you cannot get wrong, which is why I agree with the message that you're giving at times. That's why you got to be 100% serious. You don't go at this naive. You don't go at this because you understand that there is a cost for this decision. So going back to the Eastern thing, but on the West, you have marriage as all feelings.
He sounds blind, bruh. He sounds blind. Like, I've never heard a man talk like this. You know what I mean? And he's in like the manosphere space where he hears just as many horror stories. Fuck the horror stories. Put the horror stories over here. Over there somewhere. You know what I mean? He's essentially telling men not to use logic when they go into marriage, or not use as much logic. I think he's going to try to say we need balance. We need to tie emotion with logic when we go into marriages, which is a bunch of buffoonery. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's where motherfuckers get flipped up and get played, especially men. You know what I mean? Because women are sold the dream, the Disneyland dream of how marriage is supposed to be. 2.5 kids, marriage with your husband, white picket fence, and all that shit. And men are supposed to provide that for the women. Men don't live in that world, man. So he's like trying to bring that world to men. You know what I mean? At the end of the day, you need to prepare yourself as best as you can. So there's a fail safe. You don't sign any other contract without insurance. You know what I mean? So essentially, you're telling men not to go into these. You're telling men to not go into these contracts with insurance, right? You're using too much logic. You need to fuck that. When it comes to signing your name on these dotted lines, you need to take emotion entirely out of it as far as the contracts are concerned. You know what I mean? Emotion got you there, so we're gonna do this shit together. And if this shit don't fucking go the way we foresee it going, we need to have contracts to provide fail-safes for you and I, and not just shit on me. That's all it is. Contract should be all facts, all logic, and then once we get this shit out of the way, then we can be as emotional and happy and gay and all that shit as you want to be, right? But we got to handle this shit first. We got to fucking make sure we dot these I's and cross these T's. And he's telling motherfuckers to,
oh my gosh, we love each other. Oh, we don't, you know what? You make $1 million, I make a 10,000. We're gonna be together for the rest of our lives. Oh, you're this, you're that. Oh, your dad was an alcoholic. We'll never have any problem. Like, it's a very naive model, right? Mm-hmm. That's why Western marriages have issues, because it's all feelings. And to me, which is why I love Adam, is about balance. Mm-hmm. How do we balance these two ideologies? Because to Ali's point, if it's all logic, it's boring. If it's all robotic, there's no passion. There's no.
See, he's conflating it. He's conflating the two. He's conflating it. We're not talking about the actual. Well, what I've gotten from it, we're talking about marriage. The consequences of it if it does not work. And the only way to prevent as much damage as possible is to make sure these contracts are as tight as they can be. You can't tie emotion in with business. This is a business contract at the end of the day. And that's how you got to look at it. That's how you have to. You know what I mean? So if he can't conflate, it sounds like he's trying to conflate like the actual relationship with the business contract, where they should be entirely separate.
No excitement. There's no je ne sais quoi. It's just a dry thing that in the modern world people don't want that, right? But if it's all feelings, there's no structure, there's no protection, there's no wisdom, there's no guidance. So I think it's a marriage of those two ideas to be able to create long-term solutions for long-term success. And that's why I just think sometimes when we come from too much leaning on one direction, either or, it becomes problematic.
I think they must be talking past each other. You know, they have. Him and Coach Adams have. I think Coach Adams has just the marriage contract on his mind. You know what I'm saying? Preparing yourself as much as you can going into marriage. And Hafiz is talking about like everything within the spectrum of relationships and marriage and shit. Because he can't. Because if he really thinks that you're supposed to apply emotion to marriage contracts, I'm scared for his audience. You know what I'm saying? You setting up, man, for the okie doke, and then to say you need to be like 100% certain or serious about, you know, the relationships you get into or the marriages you get into. Like, bro, you living in la la land, bro. Because no matter how much certainty or confidence you have in this fucking marriage, it still may not work. You know what I'm saying? For whatever reasons, there's an infinite list of reasons of why relationships don't work outside of just the effort you put into it. You know what I'm saying? So to be that naive is crazy, because I'm aware of who Hafiz is, man. He has a big presence in this fucking manosphere, whatever the fuck. He has a voice and shit, but this shit sounds like a bunch of baby back bullshit. You know what I mean? Like some soft ass shit that's gonna end up having men being taken advantage of. Right? That was crazy.